Ready?
1 second.
Is it recording?
It's recording.
Good evening, seasonal greetings, and welcome to episode 18 of Unforced Errors. Two old guys talking about tennis and saying the things the TV commentators don't dare say. In this week's podcast, we talk about our favourite and least favourite tennis commentators. I'm joined by my favourite tennis commentator, Sir David Radina.
That was a good one, man. So we're going to talk about something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while.
For a long time.
For a long time, isn't it? Our favorite commentators and our worst commentators.
What makes a good commentator? What annoys you about commentators? Should
great
commentators
question.
be ex-top pros? Should women commentate on men's matches?
First question was?
What actually makes a good commentator for you? What do you look for in a commentator?
I love that question. I love it. So for me, a great commentator is a great voice. Has to be an appealing voice, first of all.
So if I made really good points, but just spoke like, I think his grip is too far on the left.
It would be difficult.
Okay.
Definitely. So the sound resonates with emotion. So it's like music. So there are commentators that just the voice is something special. But that's not the only most important thing. A good commentator for me is the one that brings the emotion from a tennis match through their words and maximizes it. And then brings extra bits to the conversation. You hear a Portuguese, Jim, you try watching a tennis match on Portuguese TV, My Culture, and you will want to kill yourself 15 minutes in. It's the worst thing it's horrible. It's like, oh, the ball is out. And Djokovic is hit the ball out. Okay. Next point.
So would you prefer, say, on Portuguese commentary, they go, okay, you're no good. Let's bring in a Welsh commentator who's very good, a South African. Does it have to be kind of national?
No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, of course, it's the Portuguese TV or it's the Turkish TV or it's the Angolan TV or it's the English TV. It's, of course, the language has to be is the language from that country. But unfortunately,
that's very true, yeah.
Yes, that's the limitation. You know, I tell you what they should do. They should always put the options for different languages. So if we don't like our own, we will choose because
this is a very good point. You've made me think now. We're spoiled in England in terms of we can. A lot of people speak English,
and you're very good.
Okay,
at tennis.
Say in Portugal. I mean, Portugal. Massive language, isn't it? Brazilian kind of crossover. But you are reliant on. You couldn't have someone like who only speaks French commentating on Portuguese
That's
TV.
exactly what I'm
someone
talking
translating.
about.
Yeah, I'd never thought of that.
Yeah, that's the problem. And by far, the best commentators of tennis are from the UK.
English speaking.
Of course, Australians are very good. My favorite commentators are definitely from the UK. But Australians and Americans are very good as well. So, although we don't listen to the Germans or to the Polish or to others that might be good, I only know about the Portuguese being terrible and the English being amazing. So, there you go. So, it's the emotion that they bring into a match that, for me, does it. If I watch a match where the commentators rise the emotion from the match and have a great voice and have a great flow between each other.
Chemistry.
Very
important.
Great. What about you?
I mean, I'll throw you another question. Do you want your commentators, often they work in twos during a match, would you want them both to be hyper and bring the emotion? It's a really emotional match. It's Tsitsipas versus Zverev, and there's a bit of argy-bargy at the net. Do you want both the commentators to be leaping over it, or do you want one to be kind of calm? Do you like the contrast?
The contrast is great. You agree, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, yeah.
I think it's good to have different personalities there, definitely.
I mean, things like young and old as well. I think that's quite interesting.
Exactly.
Too.
So, what makes a good commentator for you?
I would say insight. I want some insight into that. I don't want to
That's
just go,
he's
hit a forehand and it's down the line. Well, I can see that myself, even if I know nothing about tennis. I want something a bit more kind of sophisticated in terms of, if you see he went to the net there and he changed his grip.
Yes.
And that's interesting.
These details, we're always learning with them.
You know, someone who knows nothing about tennis might go, oh, that's interesting. They're not just hitting it like a, you know, someone in a playground school fight would just like lamp you with your fist. They're actually, you know, adjusting. I like a bit of prediction. If someone's asked, who do you think's going to win this match? Who's on top? I don't want someone to say, oh, this could go either way. Well, stick your neck on the line occasionally. Give us something to go on. Who do you think's going to win the tournament? It's wide open. That's easy to say. You're not going to look a fool at the end of the tournament. Open it up. It's the commentators curse often, you know. They'll say something like, this bloke's not going to miss.
All the time.
That bloke is not going to miss a forehand all day. Then the next shot, he misses it.
Yes.
But okay, at least you said something, you know, which will make you look a bit foolish, but you stuck your neck on the line.
I like that.
Passion.
Honesty.
Yes. But above all, what I want with my commentators are a few anecdotes. I want them to say, and I'll get onto this on my top 10 list too, I want them to say, you know, I met this bloke and he'd just lost the match in the corridor and he didn't seem that bothered at all. And I think that's part of his problem. He's not bothered after he loses a match. I saw him after he lost to Rublev and he said, how are you? How are the kids and stuff? And that was lovely. But I wanted him to be a bit, fuck off, I've just lost a match.
Yes.
Edit that out. But that is a real anecdote. You've actually, rather than just watch from your armchair, you've met this guy.
So you like them to be instructed on what they're doing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is my next question, which I will ask you. Do you want your commentators to actually have been players on the circuit and know the players they played against? Like a retired player who said, I played this guy 5 years ago. It's one of my final matches. And he played so well, I thought, I'm going to retire. I can't keep up with this guy. Should they be ex-players? How much should they know about tennis? Yeah. How good should they have been?
Yes, for me, it's not important that they're tennis players. I think that's a bonus. Because if they've been tennis players, they do understand tennis in a different level. And I like that they're ex-tennis players professionally. And I like also what you said about how they bring insights. I learn a lot by listening to these guys, man. A lot. It's funny, that question, because, Jim, I think I've never watched tennis other than if it's Portuguese TV with lame commentators that never played tennis, probably played in the park against their children. I've never watched professional tennis on TV with commentators that were not ex-players. Have you? I think
there's a kind of formula in that often there'll be a presenter who didn't play at top level. And he's kind of asking the question like, oh, you know, what he's doing here, I mean, what would you do? What would your strategy be? And they're asking the questions rather than giving the opinions.
Yes.
You get a kind of presenter, and sometimes they're a great ex-player themselves, but often it's almost like they're asking the question on behalf of someone who's wanted it into the match, who's never watched a tennis match before. And there are people who are watching on TV who've never watched, and they go, this is good, but I don't understand, you know, why is this guy suddenly going to the net? So I think there's a place in tennis for someone who is asking questions the man on the street who's never played professional tennis would be. And then there is a place for commentators who were the experts who would go, yeah, I did this in the Wimbledon final and I did it because of this, and this is the effect it had. So I think there's room for both.
I like that as well, because that's the duality we're talking about.
Yeah.
Two different perspectives, two different people, different from each other, and they bring something good.
If we were both commentating in the commentary box, and both of us had never been in the world's top 100, and we were on pay TV, I want at least one of them to have been the top player. And the other one is more like, oh my God, you know, why suddenly the drop shot there? I don't know, please tell me. And the other guy goes, well, I'm an expert. I've done this at the top level in a top match. This is why.
That's a good mix. What's next?
Should women commentate on men's matches and vice versa?
Definitely.
So you want the Wimbledon final, you don't mind if Martina Navratilova is commentating on that?
For me, as long as it's a good commentator. I really like the connection between Joe Dury.
He's just being like that pesky fly that you can't swat away at the moment, isn't he, Callum?
Yes. And Simon Reed.
Federer backs up the break with a love hold. Second serve ace.
Or Chris Bredman.
It is absolutely fabulous.
When they're together, it's a wonderful journey. And I never even
It
think,
doesn't matter if it's a men's match
man
or
or
a women's
women. I
match.
couldn't care less. They're very good. As long as it's good commentators, I'm happy. What about you?
I think that's a very good point, actually. I would say, though, say if it was a Wimbledon men's final,
At least
yeah,
one man, at least.
I
Two
want-
women wouldn't make sense, I agree.
I want men to be commentating on
So,
that. I
two
like
men.
This is very fussy of me.
No,
very
it's-
fussy indeed.
it's
But I
understandable.
want ideally, I want an ex-Wimbledon champion in the commentary
Ah,
box
okay.
to say that is the feeling. Because often they have three people in the
Where's
commentary box.
Sampras? Sampras
They-
should be there.
Well, I've read his autobiography and I've lived to tell the tale. I'm still having counselling over how boring it was. Sometimes the best players do not make the best commentators.
No, maybe Andre
And
Agassi.
to Sampras's credit, he's never really done commentary. I think he realises his limitations.
Mm-hmm.
I think Agassi might be a very interesting commentator, which will bring me to a further question now.
Yes.
What top tennis players who don't do commentary would you like to see in the commentary box? You mentioned Sampras doesn't do it.
And I wouldn't need him there. It wouldn't be my choice.
There must be some, David, who you think, I love this player. He's a great speaker. Who would you like to
Yes.
see in the commentary box who isn't in the commentary box?
Definitely Andre Agassi. I'm thinking of Venus Williams could become a commentator one day.
She
I like
could.
her.
I mean,
She's nice, soft.
yeah, the irony is she often takes the fine rather than does the interview.
That's
Which I
true.
think is quite cheeky. So
That's
for her
true.
to do that for years and years and then to suddenly say,
Indeed, she wouldn't
hey,
do it. But
pay me for that.
yeah,
That's a good one. I like that. Serena might be, I think, would be very good
Serena would be
at
good.
the commentary. Yeah, she might have a few left field views, which is always good.
Yes.
I had a few names. Let me run them past you. And
Go.
you just make ooh or ah sounds.
I'm ready.
Goran Ivanisevic.
Great.
I think he'd be a great commentator.
Let's go.
Agassi.
Let's go.
Robin Soderling. You know, that would be
Fine.
left
I didn't know
field.
him very well. I saw him play a lot. He was not one of my favorites, but he looked like a nice guy.
Now, this other guy, you sent me a video about 6 months ago of these ex-champions talking at the Grand Slam. And this bloke had a reputation for not saying anything at all when he was a player, being very quiet. When he was a top coach for Andy Murray, very quiet. And then when he had this discussion, he wouldn't shut up. He was worse than me.
Even
he had
Lendl.
lots to say, lots of interesting things to say. Ivan Lendl,
Yes.
I would love to see him in the commentary box.
He would be great.
And he'd be able to give insight into Zverev, who he's coached,
Yes.
and Andy Murray, and he'd have lots of anecdotes. And yeah, finally, Andy Roddick, who did try out as a kind of commentator, was very good.
Yeah, it was. And then Roger started being Roger again, yada, 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 super.
Andy Roddick. Oh, now
and
we're
then,
talking.
And then suddenly he's
That's the
nowhere.
guy. That's the guy we need commentating.
I think so, yeah.
But even Lendl is a good pick. He actually is really knowledgeable. He understands stuff. So, and
Definitely.
he's kind of like cringy and
He gives an opinion which will just knock the
Yes,
breath out of your
that's
lungs. And he's not
exactly
trying
it.
to be controversial.
no, he's just being honest
Yeah.
about the way he sees it.
Yeah.
I like your picks, even better than mine.
What of the current players? Who would you like to see after they retire?
Federer and Kyrgios.
Yeah, Federer. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think Federer would be fun because we're always interested in what goes in that man's mind. And
Good choices.
Kyrgios should be really fun. He could.
I had Kyrgios on my list
You
too.
did.
I had Novak there as well.
Novak, wow.
I had bizarrely Joe Conter, not a player I like,
Oh,
but
no.
I think she would be quite a good commentator.
Maybe
And
yes.
the
Maybe
final
you're right.
one, we might have to end the program on this. It's so controversial, or we might have to delay it because there's going to be a fight. Andy Murray.
Wow.
Should we take a break?
Wow.
Let's take a break.
Do you know something? But wait, but with Andy Murray you have a problem there because he already has a new job on Amazon. He's the guy that talks about the
does.
strategy.
He does. Yeah, we
He can't be a
disagree on this.
commentator. He can't be a
This is live.
commentator
We
anymore.
disagree, but I think he'd be quite a good
But
commentator.
okay, but listen, I'll say this. I think Murray, outside the tennis court, in terms of personality, I think he would be fun. We could go for a beer with him, and I think that we would have fun.
I think
He looks
so.
like a cool guy.
He doesn't drink.
No?
No.
Just a cup of tea.
Non-alcoholic.
A cuppa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only on one condition we bring Andy Murray to be a commentator.
Oh, okay, right. What's that condition?
We remove Tin Henman.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's been an amazing tournament so far, and two very deserving finalists. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see, who can deliver the goods on the day.
We'll get on to him. I'm not finished with the Tin Man. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a comfort break. But the question I ask before I go is, what would improve TV coverage of tennis? What would you like to see different about TV coverage related to commentary and TV coverage?
Okay, for me, the first thing that comes to mind, mini cameras on players' foreheads. And I could say as well, commentators in the same team.
Would that be a bit like getting Messi and Ronaldo in the same team? That'd be quite something.
That would be good. So what would you say about your question?
I would back a lot of what you've said. I would say less adverts on the stations which have adverts, which is a whole kind of different kind of ball game, which I think Mark Petchey or someone like that covered recently on commentary. He said, why not just have the changeover, the break where they sit down in between games at the end of a set? An ex-professional saying that, you do not need it every 2 games.
No, you don't.
So I think that would be a major thing. And you just have more adverts at the end of each set if you have to have adverts.
True.
Instead of, you mentioned cameras. I would say maybe a camera on the umpire. How does it feel to have Serena Williams looking up at you?
Especially if you're Portuguese.
Like a little toddler in a primary school class. Yes, exactly. How does that feel when they get down from their umpire's chair to check the mark in the French Open?
That's great. I like that.
And the final one, and the most important one, I think, is often during commentary, I don't know what's going on. They're having an argument with the umpire, and the commentators would go, oh, this is bad, he's getting angry. But what's the argument about? And this is where lip readers come in. You sent me a clip the other day from YouTube about arguments.
Yes.
And it flashed up subtitles explaining what was going on.
Was so good.
And obviously you don't have the budget to have a lip reader at every match.
No.
If it's the third round of the Luton Open,
yes,
you aren't. But in a Wimbledon final, would that not be an advantage to have a lip reader saying Kilic is crying and he's saying to the umpire, "This is embarrassing. I can't carry on." Just have someone, a Croatian lip reader, just saying, he's saying to the coach, he shouldn't be saying this.
Yes,
my ankle hurts. You often don't know what the drama is, and the commentators don't. And I think a lip reader would really help things.
I like that a lot because this is exactly what we always want to know. When there's drama on court, we want to follow it.
The disadvantage would be the players would get round it, as they do in football, by covering their mouth.
They would.
With their hand.
Yes.
But I think you would get some of it. You would still,
I think lip readers or microphones that pick up their talking, they can raise the volume.
Just have a kind of journalist at courtside who can actually hear what they're saying during the sit-downs. Because I think the commentators are far away. They can't.
They can't follow everything.
Those are my wishes.
They could add someone or lip reader or more microphones or all of it. And then
definitely
have more information, because sometimes we really don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and they take too many breaks in tennis, too many toilet breaks.
It's
and
ridiculous.
On that note, I need a toilet break myself.
Exactly. Welcome back from the toilet, Jim. Hope you had a good time. And
it went well.
It went well.
What can I say?
Great. Didn't drown. No, it's all good. And okay, go. We're ready for the final stage of the commentators.
This is where it gets to the nitty-gritty, our favourite ones. But I think maybe we should start off with a negative first.
I'm ready.
About our least favourite ones.
Definitely.
And this is in a rather cowardly manner. We open our post bag. So, if you want to pass that to me, Iwana.
Ding, ding, ding.
My God, it's heavier than it looks, isn't it? So I'm going to draw out at random.
Yes.
And try and find out what our listeners think here about favourite and least favourite. And the first one out of the hat is from Leon. We know Leon, don't we?
Yes.
Very good tennis player. And he writes to us about his least favourite. Leon, very good player. He says that the guy I dislike most is Andrew Castle.
But when I found out that the All England Club had pandemic insurance, I mean, who has pandemic insurance?
His constant arse-licking of Murray and all things British, plus he's quite smug.
Oh, wow.
And you can quote me on that, Leon says. So that's why I'm revealing his name.
Burned in the fire. Done. Andrew,
And
Leon
also,
doesn't like it.
if you could draw out another name from the hat, there, David.
Is that yours now?
If you draw out, sorry about the rustling noise here. It's from James Turner of Brighton.
All right.
And he says, sorry, I have no idea. Don't know why he wrote in if he has no idea. Only personal prejudice. I don't like John Infidel. I know he's a presenter.
Good morning. Today marks the halfway point in the 85th French Open here at Roland Garros.
Or Barry Davis.
I'm not 100% sure because I've come back from World Cups to do the second week in Wimbledon.
I like the rest pretty much. That's a valid opinion. And thank you, James and Leon, for your views on that. We don't have time to read out any of the others. Sorry about that, but you will get a signed photo of David and I and the Unforced Errors pen going to you. So
well, I asked Stephen, so what are your favorite commentators? And he said, it's boring. I more easily tell you who I don't like. And I found out through him that what he loves is the statistics, and it's the last thing that I find interesting in tennis.
That is interesting
Funny
in itself. Yes. Some statistics, are
great.
interesting.
They're great, yes.
But often they're just numbers
They're
floating,
just numbers.
floating in front of my head like...
Exactly. And for Stephen, it's the thing that he connects more than the emotion that comes from the commentators.
So Stephen could actually watch matches with the sound down.
But he likes the commentators.
The statistics often
They
come up on
appear,
the screen.
yes. And he likes when the commentators talk about those statistics.
Yes.
So that's the last thing that I need as a tennis fan.
Stephen is a stats man, isn't he?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, very good player too.
So, okay, what are your unfavorites? Now it's your turn. Or I'll start with one if you want, but I think you should go first.
You think, right, okay, so I should go first. So, here it is, drum roll.
Is this your favorites? What about your unfavorites?
These are my least favourites. Let's get the Let's get the negative out of the way
Got
first.
it. Go.
So it's a certain type of commentator at number 10, which is kind of the BBC employees. And it's a kind of commentator they wheel out once a year, Wimbledon commentator. And they're almost like country vicars, and they haven't played tennis at the top level. And they're all, oh, this is a good show. And, you know, like they're commentating on the Village Fete or something. So Gerald Williams and...
You know, he could well be playing in the next Olympics in Seoul and perhaps playing John McEnroe in the final.
He's passed away, unfortunately. But David Mercer...
Yeah, they certainly have one women's final that stands out. Was Monica Seles against Justine Henin.
You almost think they get the job because, you know, they were just friends with the producer or whoever. Number 9, Barry Davis. And this is another phenomenon, David. I don't know if you come across this.
Yep.
Tennis commentators who also commentate on other sports.
Oh, yes, I've come
So
across
it's almost
that.
like a hobby. You know, they'll have another sport they prefer more. And Barry Davis commentates on football. He's been around for years, commentates on the boat race. And just, I'm free Wimbledon fortnight. That's quite nice. So I'll commentate on this. I want my tennis commentator to be a specialist on tennis.
Got it.
And I'll come to this later with my number 1 choice. Number 8, Brad Gilbert.
It's amazing how quickly we got fed, and then Nadal, now Djokovic, Murray. To me, I've never seen better athleticism in the game, better all-around movement, and the skill set.
Who I think was a great tennis coach.
I remember him.
Trained up Andre Agassi, gave him some excellent advice. But he does the on-court interviews. And he wears a stupid hat, which is quite annoying. And
I've seen that.
I just find his questions annoying, and I can see the players being annoyed by his questions. So we get down to number 7, Serena's coach.
I would say yes and no. Yes, I'm surprised because who would expect her to go that fast?
Who I'm not even going to give a name. He's just Serena's coach.
Oh my God,
and he's another
true.
stats man who comes up with these
He
stats.
was on a game chat Mets.
Yes,
doing
as a
the
kind of hologram.
Yes.
Posting, and I think he coaches quite a lot of players.
Yes,
he's almost like a cult leader. A lot of these players train with him.
He's everywhere,
in France.
man.
And I think because he knows the players so well, he doesn't really give anything away, any secrets away. He just talks in mumbo jumbo.
Yes, well spotted actually.
I dislike this bloke so much, I've actually named him at number 7 as well, Barry Davis. He's in my list twice. I don't know how that happened. Virginia Wade is...
I think just what we've been saying about Serena all through the year, it's only really Serena who can beat herself.
There, I think, at number 4, I probably skipped a bit there. She's just not my style of commentator. Great player, she's entitled to her opinion. She's the one who famously said that Djokovic... Nadal final, it's getting boring, these guys. They just slog around. These aren't great matches. I would say number 3, John Lloyd.
Well, I think with WTT, I think it's a great training ground. Apart from winning the league, I think it can help your game for the next few weeks and months afterwards.
Have you come across John Lloyd,
yes,
David? It doesn't appear so much on our screens now. Was a top 20 player for Great Britain. He's the one who, when Leighton Hewitt won Wimbledon, said this guy can win Wimbledon multiple times. We're looking at another Borg 7 or 8 times. Always a bad prediction. Never came to fruition, that prediction. Just, one of these wooden commentators, I feel, who just tells you what you've just seen rather than gives any real insight into it.
Yes.
Number 2, I would say Tim Henman. We'll probably talk about him quite a bit.
What
so
is
I'll
his
come
number?
back to
Number what?
Number 2.
Number 2 or top?
Number 2, least favourite.
Exactly, it's getting worse.
Let's talk about Tim now. I feel awful saying this. I think he's really improved.
He's really improved.
He was so bad.
Good point.
So let's be positive. He was so bad when he first started.
Terrible.
Obviously a top player, but you WhatsApped me the other day, didn't you? Say, look at Tim. He's fiddling with his ring.
Yes.
He's got this
in
thing.
In front of Barbara Shed.
You tell me what happens with his ring.
If we had a camera, I could impersonate him. But every 2 or 3 words, he opens his both hands like he's a clamp.
He doesn't know what to do with his hands.
No, and then he closes them back and 2 fingers hold the wedding ring. And he does this most often than not when he was in front of Barbara Shed.
Well, we're going to come on to Barbara Shed lately. And in Tim's defence, I feel terrible for nominating him number 2. I wouldn't know what to do with my hands if I was in a room alone with Barbara Shed.
But some people are more creative than others.
But I think part of Tim Henman's problem is that he's got this kind of nervous tick he always does when he's asked a question. He asked a question like, Sampras is playing so well this year.
Mm-hmm.
And his stock response is, yes, absolutely. Yes, that's right. And he does that to every question he's asked. The next question will be, do you think the grass is quicker this year at Wimbledon? Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's right. Do you think David should run around the forehand a bit more? Yes, absolutely. That's right. Do you think Roger Federer will run off with Stan Wawrinka's wife this year?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. And it becomes meaningless because he's agreeing with every question that he's asked.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with your own opinion, man. Part of my problem with him too is he just seems to be more interested in golf than tennis. His co-commentators say, what do you think of this? And Tim would go, well, to be frank, I'd rather be on the golf course. And it just makes me feel sad, really, that he's not that into tennis.
Well, I'm even surprised he's the number 2 instead of number 1.
But let's finish on a positive note with the old Tim man. I think maybe he's been misused. I think on Amazon or Eurosport recently, they had a section where he demonstrated with a tennis racket the grip that one of the players was using. I think it was the Russian bloke.
Yes.
And he said, he's got such an extreme grip here, which is great for this type of shot.
Yeah.
But you try it with this. And it was great. He was demonstrating with a tennis racket.
He did a good job.
So it was, and I think he should be used more like that. Yes, absolutely. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
So my number 1 is, have you heard of her, David? Claire Balding.
And I'm delighted to be joined by 2 WTA legends, Chrissy Evert and Martina Navratilova.
Claire Balding. Now, she is the presenter of Wimbledon.
Oh, my God.
So Claire Balding is basically a presenter, and she took over from John Inverdale, the Wimbledon coverage a few years ago. And she's famous through commentating on horse racing, really. And it brings me back to my previous point. I want some level of interest or expertise in tennis. Would John McEnroe commentate on horse racing?
No.
So would it work the other way around? So that's my problem with her, really. You don't have to be a tennis pro. If you're an expert in one field and you're just like barging in on another one, yeah, she's my number 1.
I love your choices. So I don't have the same list as Jim. Jim is always amazing when it comes to top 10s and worst 10s. But I'll give my 3 unfavorites in commentating.
You do that.
And number 3 would be... I mean, I don't even have a number 3, but I would put number 3. Any Portuguese commentator of tennis is the worst in the world. Yeah, Portuguese are terrible. Terrible commentators. So that's my 3. The number 2 is... I've grown a bit to the Henman, so I'll put him in number 2. Definitely. Tim Henman...
He's not even our least favourite. He didn't even win that.
Oh, my God. Tim Henman, there's just something about him, man. But he's getting better.
Yeah.
I gotta give him that. But he... okay. And my number 1 is the same. Claire Baldwin.
Ah, you know her.
She has something about her that every time there's a tennis show with tennis match going on and she's presenting, it feels like I'm with this strange person that has nothing to do with tennis and shouldn't be there. She's annoying at the same time. It's very difficult to watch that woman talk.
That's good. We agree. So yeah,
we agree.
I didn't know if you
number
if you
2
were
and
aware,
number 3.
Aware of
number
that.
1.
So say if you go on holiday to Portugal, you've got the choice. Portuguese TV. It's a big match.
Yes.
Your Portuguese champion is playing in the final.
I never follow
the Australian Open,
yes.
and you're in Portugal.
Okay.
You've got the choice: Amazon Prime, Portuguese TV,
Amazon Prime,
Eurosport, or BBC. They're all covering.
Oh,
who do you watch?
Eurosport.
Okay.
Oh yes, the best. They have the
Why?
best commentators because they have the best commentators.
That brings us on to the best commentators.
The best commentators. Let's go. So shall I go first this time?
I think so.
Yeah, and then you go for your top. I'll say 5. Okay. I have a very hard time to choose my favorite commentators, Jim. I cannot put it into a list of top 10. I can tell you 5 or 6 or 7 names, and then I'll tell you what I think of them or what is my favorite. Yeah. So Robbie Connon is amazing.
Oh, you got to be kidding me!
I just love that guy. The way that he expresses his emotion onto a tennis court is just insane. There's something about him that is very special. And whenever he's commentating, I am very happy. I really like Jo Dury. She's really composed.
Wow.
She's lovely voice. Very, my God, knowledgeable. She's so good. Simon Reed and Chris Bradman. I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest. And those are the guys that are at Eurosports, by the way.
These are obscure guys who...
Yes, and their voices are my favorites. They're just... I think they have the best voices in tennis. Those two and the Jo Dury. I love McEnroe.
There's something cruel about Rafael Nadal. The way he makes you feel like you have a chance of beating him on clay.
I love Mats Wilander.
There's less miss hits, and of course the ball shoots through the courts, especially here this year.
Oh my God, even Boris Becker was great.
I mean, you said the numbers game, and we couldn't emphasize enough the very fact, all the records he's broken. I mean, we're talking about, tough competition. You're talking about everybody's pretty much younger.
He was nice to have around. I find that commentators is also like the company that you're having while you're watching a tennis match, and you want a personality that you like. So that's another point to choose the favorites, the personality. Jim Courier was not too bad, but if I was to say the top 1, it would probably be Chris Bradman.
Let's give him his moments in the sun. That's a great choice because it's not obvious.
His voice. Him and Jo Dury together, it's just a wonderful flow. And Simon Reed as well. So they're very good. I think these are more or less the ones that I remember most. But I like them all. I even like that dude. What was his name? 1 second.
I would not have predicted that. That's really good.
Fru McMillan.
Not sure you can get warned for coaching your coach.
I even like that guy. He feels really old-fashioned, but he's good. I mean, so give me your top 10.
10, you mentioned him earlier, Frew McMillan.
Great.
He is someone I
deserves
listened
it.
to at first and I thought, who is this old fart?
Yes.
Just seeing out his days. He needs a bit of extra pocket money to feed the ducks.
Yeah.
And eat hot soup at lunchtime. But the more I listened to him, the more I warmed to him. He's 78 years old, South African player.
Old-fashioned.
Yeah, very successful doubles player with someone who's Bob Hewitt, who's a convicted rapist.
Oh, my God.
Unfortunately. So, bit of a shame. He found fame with a partner who has been disgraced, kind of thing. But you listen to him and he kind of warms up. He's quite shy at the first. But as the match goes on, he gets more uninhibited. And he'll even crack a few awkward jokes. But he offers real insight. He's sincere. He's serious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's lovely to see someone at 78 still working. Whoever he's paired with, there's a contrast. He's going to be a lot older.
He's
and I like
always
that contrast.
different. I like that, yes.
Number 9, with apologies to our listener, James Turner at Brighton, John Inverdale, who was a presenter, didn't play tennis at a top level at all, just kind of answered the questions. He got sacked in favour of Claire Balding for comments about Marianne Bartoli, who incidentally I think is an excellent commentator herself. But his comments were, did the fact that she wasn't a lady who looks like a supermodel drive her on to be a better tennis player?
Yes.
It's a valid question. It is. And personally, I disagree with John Inverdale. I think she's a very attractive lady. But it's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
David, if you are a good-looking guy, if you had women throwing yourself at you on the street, would you have bothered being a good tennis player? It's a question he asked, and he got sacked as a result of it. And now he's commentating on rugby.
Wow.
So, okay, you've made a derogatory remark about a female, so we're just going to make you a commentator for men's rugby. I mean,
that's strange.
But he was a very good, laid back. I thought he had great questions. Number 8, Jimmy Connors.
Well, I've always said over the years that this is the toughest tennis in town.
I think he was used...
Did I ever hear him commentate?
Yes, only briefly though, David, because he was used briefly. Maybe he charged a lot of money, but I think he was a big rival of McEnroe when they were players. But I think he makes the points more succinctly, more briefly than McEnroe. He'll just say it very briefly, and again, they're not quite what you're expecting.
Yeah.
Do you think Federer is the greatest player of all time?
Yes.
Well, the obvious answer is he's got to be one of the greats. But, Connors will give a different answer and explain it and justify it. And he was a great player
I wouldn't
himself.
guess that you put Connors in there.
Number 7, Pat Cash, Australian bloke.
Well, back in my day, we were naturally down lower. A lot of the courts were quicker, so it was a natural place for us to be, is down in this sort of position.
And why I love him is coming back to anecdotes. When Goran Ivanisevic won Wimbledon, Pat Cash was in the commentary box, and he was the one who pointed out Ivanisevic is serving for Wimbledon. I can barely say this through the emotion of remembering it. He's got tears in his eyes. He's serving for Wimbledon, and Ivanisevic had tears in his eyes serving for Wimbledon.
Yes.
And Pat Cash, after he won, said, I remember when Ivanisevic lost Wimbledon. He lost his 3rd Wimbledon title in a row. And I visited him in the dressing room afterwards. And I remember him being distraught. And I said to him, you'll win Wimbledon one day. And I didn't mean it. And Ivanisevic was like, I'm never going to win it. And that is an anecdote I want to hear.
That's a good one as well. I like
Pat Cash actually admitting I was lying. I thought he's a great player. I thought, that's it. You're never going to win it. And Ivanisevic saying, I'll never win it. And he did.
Yes.
So absolutely lovely. So I can't remember what order. Let's abandon the order. Boris Becker, very great, very short, sharp, very quick points. I think the momentum is now with Djokovic. I think he will now win it.
Yeah.
No long kind of preamble saying
abrupt, very just simple.
A lot of commentators would go, I think Djokovic has got the upper hand now, but I think Federer could still win this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to back it. He'll just say, I think it's swung to Djokovic. I now think he'll win it.
And he has a good presence on him. He feels good when Boris is around.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to cheat with my next selection by choosing two people as one,
Yes.
because I think they are a two-headed monster in the
Yes.
nicest possible way.
Mhm.
Barbara Schett and Mats Wilander. I think they are one person.
magnific.
The chemistry between them is just so good.
Oh,
They are
and-
one person.
Oh, it's great, and they speak so well with each other. And Mats always compliments Barbara's questions so well.
He respects them. He won't, well, that's a ridiculous question, or just go, yeah, I agree. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
He will take it a stage further. Say something like, Andy Murray, I think he's taking wild cards away from players who deserve to be in the tournament.
Yes.
I think it's time for him to consider whether I should continue it.
Yes.
He's a positive bloke. He's got a sense of humour. I think Barbara Schett, a top player herself, a top 10 player.
She was,
I think she
yeah.
asks the questions.
Very well asked.
She respects, she listens to
And
them.
I'll even go as far as to say that Mats Wilander is might be the best tennis analyzer, talker at the end of matches that I've ever seen. It's incredible.
And I think, like Jim Courier,
All right, Roger, so that was an hour and 14 minutes. So I've been instructed by Channel 7 to do an hour-long interview with you here for the crowd.
who is on my list as well
He's
as
on
an
my list
excellent
too.
commentator. I think he's a player
Jim Courier is good.
who fell out of love with tennis but has rediscovered his love through
And
commentary.
he's commentating in
They
America.
were both great players up
Mhm.
there, both so similar players. Couldn't crack Wimbledon. They lost the love of the game and they've rediscovered it through. And I think Jim Courier is excellent too. A great interviewer on court as well.
So good.
Barbara Schett, I think there are other great women commentators too. I think Annabelle Croft is very good.
Very good.
There
Very
are others
good.
too. Martina Navratilova, excellent.
Yes.
Of course, we wanted to play, we wanted to get equal prize money in the majors, and the beef against that was, well, we only play 2 out of 3, not 3 out of 5. We said, well, we'll play 3 out of 5. Oh, no, we don't want you to do that. So I think that's when we said, okay, we're going to do it anyway at our season-ending championship. And so we had maybe 10 years of that, and then they stopped it again. I don't know why they stopped.
Which brings me on to Sue Barker as well.
Well, during the day, we've heard from so many great champions here.
Kind of a top player, French Open champion, presents Wimbledon coverage. Claire Balding's taken over a lot of her coverage, unfortunately. But she's excellent. Which brings me on to my next selection, John McEnroe. Absolutely
yes.
excellent. He does 2 weeks' work. Sue Barker gets paid $205,000 a year. John McEnroe for 2 weeks' work for the BBC. How much is he paid? $200,000. So he gets paid almost as much as Sue Barker. And Sue Barker does a lot more.
Got it.
He is excellent, very spiky. He has the rule changes.
Oh,
which,
he's awesome. He's the
he
tennis
stole from
commissioner.
UFE. We do that. He copied us.
He copied us.
But
Definitely.
he is excellent. I have no problem with him.
He's
but
always
he is
fun.
paid too much. That is too much money by the BBC.
Agreed.
Which brings me to my number one shot.
Oh!
You mentioned him earlier.
Dun, 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 dun,
He's
dun,
a
dun,
South
dun, dun,
African
dun, dun,
player.
dun.
I'll give you a few quotes of his so you can guess who he is. He described Jack Sock's forehand, which was going out of control during a match. He was misfiring, as like an unattended garden hose. You know, like when a garden hose sprays everywhere. And he described another player's reflexes as like a mongoose on amphetamines. He also
You got to be kidding.
He described a Federer shot as the last time we saw one of those, God was a boy. So who am I talking about?
Robbie Koning.
It has to be Robbie Koenig. What a great addition.
Oh,
Not a top
my
player,
God.
a top doubles player, but he's got such enthusiasm.
Oh.
He could commentate on two players playing down the public courts for the first time. And I want to watch that match. That is the match I want to be watching.
Yeah.
It's great, his enthusiasm. The BBC have started employing him, and he makes me remember how much I love tennis.
Oh,
because he is that
so
he is
true.
that schoolboy watching that match. Absolutely love him. He's poetic. It's almost like the things he's saying is scripted, and I don't mind that at all. He uses the language. Language is beautiful, and so is tennis. And Robbie Koenig is that marriage of the beauty between language and tennis.
And emotion. Emotion, because the guy, I think if it's scripted, you don't even know.
I don't care if it's scripted. It's Shakespearean. It's
But
lovely.
I'll tell you something. I don't even feel the script. I feel the emotion. He feels tennis in his vocal cords, man. That guy is just unbelievable. It's definitely one. And you know who he pairs up really well with?
Anyone. That's who he pairs
That's
up well
very
with.
true. But I've been
Or no one.
loving him and Nick Lexter together.
Yeah, we'll talk about Murray in a moment, but of course when the draw was made, all the attention really was on that bottom quarter of the draw, an incredibly loaded section.
He has a really good voice, very professional. Well, but you said it. Robbie Conning goes well with absolutely everyone. Well, and now we reach the end of our episode. I hope you guys and everybody enjoyed. Jimmy's not here with me because he's stuck at home because of the lockdown. A while back, I invited him to start this show with myself, and what a good choice that was. And I take this chance to finish the show letting everyone know that Jim is an amazing, hardworking commentator on UFE. He always does his homework. He's always ready to talk about everything. He has loads of information. Jim, well done. And if any of you would like to help me encourage Jim to leave his home and come to my house so we can continue recording in the lockdown, please send him all the emails and likes and help me bring him back.